what I created was my strategy or my system called TIME.
Okay.
Tools, intention, meaning, and engagement. And it was a way to bring together the knowledge of charitable giving, how it's going to benefit the clients personally, financially, how it benefits the advisor long-term for their bottom line, and ultimately the community. So what I did after almost 10 years at the Community Foundation was I just saw that niche and decided to go out on my own and really help advisors use philanthropy as an asset retention strategy for their top clients.
Okay.
To engage that next generation.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to No Limits with Kristen Andre. We are excited to have you here. And today we have with us Arlene Cogen, who is a certified financial planner, a speaker, and a best-selling author of Give to Live. So we're going to dive into all things philanthropy related today. So I'm excited because we talked to a lot of advisors on this show, but we really haven't had anybody that with your background that kind of really focuses on the giving. So give us a little bit of bio and background on you, Arlene.
Oh, thank you. First of all, Kristen, thanks for having me on your show. You have great people on your show. You have a lot of good information, so it's really an honor to be
Glad
here.
to have you.
So a little bit of my background. I'm a certified financial planner, and I began on Wall Street and spent over 20 years in the trust and investment world. And I helped people make money and grow their money and preserve their money, and had a blast doing it. And then my husband and I had 2 daughters, and we moved to the West Coast to Oregon, which is where I am now. And when I was home with my kids for a year or so, I realized that while I was on Wall Street, while it was fun, there was still not always the best side of it. And I experienced sexual harassment, the glass ceiling, and wage discrimination, just to name a few.
Yep. Completely get it. Yeah.
Having 2 daughters, I wanted to change my career so they could see and watch me lead by example, that they could have a job they loved and get paid well and not deal with the BS. So when we moved out to Oregon, I actually saw a career coach, and everything came up philanthropy and benevolence. And I looked at her and I was like, how do you make money at that?
Yeah. I think that's a valid question because, in finance, it's all about make money for you, make money for your clients. And that would have been my first reaction too.
Yeah. And so I actually went right back into the trust and investment world, working for a couple regional companies. And I tried to figure out, well, if not trust in investments, what would nonprofit look like? And it took me 5 years, but I finally found my dream job with the Oregon Community Foundation. And they happen to be the 9th largest community foundation in the country.
Okay.
And while I was there, I used to bring in 30 to 40% of all giving statewide annually because my sole focus were advisors.
Yeah.
And what I learned in the process and what I observed was advisors either got philanthropy and would generously refer their top clients to me, or they would be, I don't want to give you the assets because I'm losing a revenue stream.
Yep.
And that was shocking to me because statistics show without an asset retention strategy in place, when your top client dies, you're going to lose up to 90% of those assets anyway, because the next generation has no relationship with you.
I'm seeing that a lot with more than half of my private coaching clients are advisors. And we're seeing that a lot, especially with the ones who their population and their client base is aging. and I'm really having to push them to get intentional around meeting the children, meeting the next gen, and make sure that they have relationships with them. Because I think for years and years, it hasn't even crossed their mind. They just see their client, but they're not doing anything to engage their heirs, their beneficiaries.
Right. And I'm not saying that they should be engaging everyone. Like, you don't want to engage $1 million client's kid person who has 10 kids.
Who has no job. Yeah. Yeah. But the top clients, for sure.
You want to strategically engage the top clients where there's real potential. And what I created was my strategy or my system called TIME.
Okay.
Tools, intention, meaning, and engagement. And it was a way to bring together the knowledge of charitable giving, how it's going to benefit the clients personally, financially, how it benefits the advisor long-term for their bottom line, and ultimately the community. So what I did after almost 10 years at the Community Foundation was I just saw that niche and decided to go out on my own and really help advisors use philanthropy as an asset retention strategy for their top clients.
Okay.
To engage that next generation. And it inspired me to write my book, Give to Live, which was specifically drafted for advisors as a tool
to help engage your client. Yeah, I like that a lot. So how often do you see, you talked a little bit about advisors, part of them wanting to be able to help their clients give back, and part of them very concerned with how it will affect them personally. But on the client standpoint, how especially with wealthier clients, are they giving? Are you finding that with most people, they have that, giving heart where they do want to give back to the community? Or are you having to almost sell the fact that they need to be philanthropic? Because I would hope that people just would want to give back, but I was just curious as to if they do.
So people want to give back. With the Tax Act that came out, there's certainly different giving patterns. We find that wealthier people are giving more, and people who are under that $25,000 standard deduction aren't giving as much. But what I noticed from all my years in both the trust and investment world and in nonprofit is that while people know the terms of what a bequest is, and they kind of know what the different charitable vehicles are, donor advised funds,
right,
and charitable trusts, they don't see that they can do it unless they're a multimillionaire. And what is in reality is everyone, whether you're a multimillionaire, mass affluent, or of modest means, my book breaks down how to give in a really understandable way so everyone feels like they can give at their capacity.
Right. So somebody that, let's take the middle America, modest income, working family and everything. What are you seeing them doing, or what are you advising in your book that they do if they have that charitable heart and want to be able to give back? What are some of the things they typically look at?
Well, one of the things that I typically love to share with people is how to endow a gift that you always give. So, Kristen, what's a nonprofit that you give an annual gift to every year?
I would say so something like Dress for Success is a big one that I enjoy. So anything, I'm a women and children type of charitable giver. So
perfect. So let's say you give $100 a year for Dress for Success. When you die, they're never going to get that $100 anymore.
So you're looking at the insurance means of funding something, a vehicle.
Not necessarily insurance. What I do is I teach people, if you take your annual gift and you multiply it by 20, you would get $2,000.
Okay.
Now, as you know, that a 5% payout is $100. So if Dress for Success manages that $2,000 gift in appropriately, they will be able to spin off $100 a year from that endowment long after you're gone, supporting your organization.
Got it. Okay.
So that's one thing I like to teach people. And then the problem with that strategy is it requires people to go hire an attorney and write a bequest in their will. Bummer. So let's layer on top of that the most tax efficient asset to make that gift from. Instead of a bequest, what if we did a beneficiary designation from a retirement account? Now you're saving the attorney fee and you're making an endowed gift in the most tax efficient way and making a charitable gift you never imagined. It's that simple, and people still don't, until they hear that, they don't even realize they can make that kind of gift because advisors aren't breaking it down that way for clients.
Yeah, so I would say I would assume most of the general population isn't really aware of all the strategies that are available to them for anything. I mean, not just with investing, but certainly with charitable giving. I mean, they barely know. The general population barely knows what investment vehicles are available. So I would think with charitable giving, it just confuses it even more. Like they're probably less educated on that than general investment.
Yes, and as you know, for many advisors, when you look at like the U.S. Trust Study on high net worth individuals, that our clients want this information, and we as advisors are usually too technical for them, and it's flying over their heads. So when I say the book was written for advisors, it breaks down all those charitable giving concepts into understandable pieces.
Right.
The second part shares these amazing stories of people who solved a family situation and a financial situation in amazing ways. And then after each little segment and story, there is an opportunity in a personal reflection area for clients to start to create their philanthropic plan. But the key thing here, Kristen, is the last chapter points your client right back to you, how to work with and choose an advisor. So you're always in the loop as an advisor, so your clients are getting sound financial information.
And I think that's a lot of times what they want, because you made a good point about overcomplicating things. You know, having a background in finance, and I get the concepts, and I'll hear advisors explaining them to them. I'm like, if I'm sitting here pausing when you're explaining it to me and I have a financial background, most lay people and your clients are not going to understand 90% of what comes out of their mouth. So I feel like breaking it down into something simple and bite size, definitely is the way to go. So
it's remarkable because people don't realize they can take care of a loved one and make a charitable gift.
Exactly.
They can pass down values through charitable giving to their children and grandchildren and engage them in new ways that brings you together, like many of the philanthropists that built our country, the Carnegies and the Rockefellers. The way they kept their wealth together was by having a higher purpose around giving. And clients can do that today in donor advised funds. There are many private foundations where with the right tools, you can help your clients engage that next generation. It makes it really simple.
So you've mentioned Next Gen a lot, and I know you said you got into this because of your two daughters and really wanted to teach them. What can we do with, I have three daughters myself, so I feel like a lot of time, it's a handful, but we teach them so many things about life. I mean, most people are not, and kids are coming out of school, they barely know basic personal finance. So what can we do which is a whole nother soapbox, but what can we do at a young age, right? What can we do at a young age to help children understand the importance of charitable giving?
Oh, there is so much we can do as parents. And there's a chapter in my book which talks about getting young kids involved. But I always love to share with people the paper bag game that was created when I had daughters. And I am very comfortable. My kids are very fortunate, and they have generous relatives. And when they were really, really young, they had a lot of toys and clothes and stuff, and I'm sure you were there as well. So one of the things we instituted in the house when they were probably 2 and 3 years old, was in order to get new toys for the holidays or their birthday, they
Yep.
had to fill up a brown paper bag of stuff that they were finished playing with and ready to give away to people less fortunate. So it was this process of gratitude. We have a lot.
Yep.
Let's take care of other people who don't, and then you can get that new toys.
Right.
And when I first started with my girls, since they're 16 months apart, Kristen, it would take literally a month to fill one bag.
Right. So we do similar. We do before birthdays and before Christmas is what we do, and
Right.
most of the donations go to. I donate mine somewhere different, but most of our donations go to Goodwill, and we're fortunate we have one we can drop it off, and the girls will ride with me and give it. And we started that young as well. How long did that stick? Because now I think they're associating it less with charitable giving and more with the fact mom wants them to clean out their room. So I don't know that.
Oh.
I think early on the lesson stuck, but now it's become a habit where they're like, we just need to get rid of stuff. And I feel like, at least for my kids, they're losing the charitable component of it.
Right. Okay. And if that's the case, as they get a little bit older, we look to redirect that they get direct gifts from their friends to a charitable cause.
Okay.
And for my kids, once it was the Humane Society. And it just so happens I have a friend who works over there. So my daughter went with all the money and checks she received, and she got a little tour of the Humane Society. And I think in total, it was maybe $20 or $30 that all of her little friends put together, and then the parents put money in too. But it was starting to equate that you can give financially. You don't need to receive the gift because
Right.
you have plenty.
Yeah.
So let's be generous and give it to something near and dear to your heart.
I think that's a good, and I like the financial component too, because I think for toys, they didn't buy the toys. They didn't, most of the stuff are gifts. So they're getting rid of stuff that they never had ownership of, quote unquote, anyway. So I like the idea of the monetary piece going to them, a portion of it. Because if we can start teaching kids that a portion of their income should go to savings, a portion of their income should go to charitable giving, I think that's a great lesson for kids.
Yeah, and as they get older, then you look at the financial purchases they're making that have an impact. They're great companies like Bombas socks
Yep.
and Toms,
Toms.
and Warby Parker, where if you buy something, they also donate something. And when we start to help them identify the power of their dollar, both through purchases and helping, through philanthropy, through direct money to philanthropy, as well as the clearing out and generosity to others, you really build on that through each stage they go through in life.
Yeah, and the social entrepreneurs are getting so much more popular now. I mean, that's a major in college. We didn't even have entrepreneurship when I went to college. So now we've got that and the social entrepreneurs and all this other stuff. So I feel like the younger generation, we're trying to teach them, but I feel like they're going to have more input on that. So let's flip the switch for a minute. You're because I think a lot of our wealth we're seeing, at least with my clients, they're with the older generations. So does it start with the advisor? I could see it easily starting with the advisor having the conversations with their wealthier clients as to what do we want to do? What impact do you want this wealth to have on people? Because I think that's the bigger discussion is what good do you want to do with everything you've accumulated? Can't take it with you.
Yeah, and that's a lot about my time strategy. Focuses on working with your clients to identify their core values, because that I think is critical to your philanthropy as well as your everything in life. What are the core values that you want to see an organization operate by? There are a lot of great questions that I share with advisors from the nonprofit side. They have a little bit different way of asking questions. Mm-hmm. And I think advisors learn a lot from hearing what a nonprofit will ask a donor versus an advisor. And if they start to shift that a little, they find out a lot more information on things that impacted their life, why they care for a specific organization. And it really opens up and builds a deeper relationship with your clients and their children.
I think that's critical, especially with, a lot of advisors, they are so intelligent from the money standpoint, the numbers standpoint, very analytical. I was one of the few advisors that was not an analytical advisor, probably why I'm not practicing anymore. But I think it's easy to connect with people if you ask the right question. So, your book and Give to Live, do you who's it for first? Is it advisors and anybody listening, or is it mostly geared for your advisors?
It is geared towards the end user, regular people like you and me, people who donate money. It just breaks giving down in a simple manner. But it's also a good tool for any professional advisor to give to their client to open up that conversation so they understand
I like that idea.
How the tools work.
Yeah.
They understand how the tools work, and then they could literally come in. I mean, it's broken down into sections like divorce, dual income, no children, business owners, multiple generations. So in some ways, you can skip ahead and read your chapter.
Yep.
Or you can read through and get lots of different ideas. Like, I want to do, a Sally and Sam, and it might not be the right one, but at least you understand how it could work into your own plan before you get to the advisor and they go way technical and
they get way technical. Yeah. I like that. I think that's good. So how do people find your book? Tell us.
So my book is on Amazon.
Awesome. Okay.
Give to Live by Arlene Cogen. The full title is Give to Live, Make a Charitable Gift You Never Imagined.
Oh, I like that. Nice subtitle. And we can put a link. We'll put a link to it when we post the show. But I think it's an area that my guess is so many people would love to be able to be active and do more charitable giving, but they don't know where to start. So it sounds like this provides a good place and some education around here's where we get started.
That's what it was meant for.
Good. All right. So let me ask you this. With your charity, what do you like? What do you enjoy and feel like your cause and passion is in terms of philanthropy and giving back?
My philanthropy, when my mother passed away, we created a donor advised fund. And part of that was to get the girls involved in giving. And while my passions go towards, women's rights and mental health and Jewish causes, through the Donor Advised Fund, it expands more because my girls are interested in new things. And it's really helped us grow as a family because every year we get together and we sit down and we talk about, as a family, where do we want to make gifts? What's happening in the world? How do we want to impact it? So my giving has expanded through including my husband and my girls. But my basic passions are kind of women issues, mental health, and Jewish causes.
I like the fact you're including the girls, because I know, at least for me with my daughters, everybody's passions and causes are very different from one another. So, we have a little bit of overlap, but my oldest is, she's an animal girl. So it's, when you said humane study, I'm like, I know it, and both time too, but I think we're talking about the money aspect, but I also feel from a philanthropic standpoint, children all have time. My children all do volunteer hours that they're required to do through school. Well, they do it through Beta Club and everything through school, but even my elementary one has a set number of hours she has to do each semester where she's giving back to the community. And I feel like if we can, a lot of people are good at that. They're good at volunteering time, but if we can piggyback this piece about starting to think about money and donor funds. I mentioned Dress for Success earlier, and, I had a conversation with the executive director here in Atlanta, and she was saying so many people are familiar with it, but they think they just need clothing. And that's what, I mean, quite honestly, that's what I had done all these years, is just donate, donate, donate. And what they really need is cash. I mean, she was pretty upfront. She goes, we need money. We need cash. So I think having a plan to give will be helpful. And your book will do a great service just to let people know where to start.
Yeah. And, one of the best places for anyone to start is to actually write down where you're giving. Even if it's you drop your change at the grocery store into the coin box for whatever their charity of the month is, it's really, really important to track where you're giving. What I found at the Community Foundation is people would create these funds that would activate after they passed away.
Right.
But I would always encourage them to create a donor advised fund and do all their giving through the fund so they could track it. And many of them did. And then a year later or 2 years later, I would hold up, here's what you want to have happen when you're gone. And this is your actual activity. And we put it side by side, and they'd be blown away because there was a complete disconnect of where they're giving now and where they want to give in the future.
Interesting.
So by tracking your giving, it really gives you a footprint to start a philanthropic plan and be just more clear about what you want to accomplish and how you want to be remembered.
I like that a lot because, I was thinking, when you said tracking, I was like, I track mine because it's a line item on my QuickBooks, but I don't by source. I don't by source. And, the pastor at my church had always said, when he talks about charitable giving and everything, he's very big on having a plan for your charitable giving, but he always says, start with the question, what breaks your heart? What cause is it? What organization, what group of people is it that cause you that just breaks my heart to hear that story, that situation. I think that's a good place for people to start. But to make sure what you're actually doing is in alignment with your passion and your interest is a really good question.
Right. And your values, what are your values?
Right.
On top of that.
Sure.
It's all interrelated. And when you pull it together in a structured way, you get so much more joy out of it than if it's haphazard. So let's bring more joy and happiness into our clients' lives by being strategic about philanthropy and using it as an asset retention strategy to focus on 90% asset retention and 10% goes to charity for our top clients.
I think that's
we can
fantastic.
do that. I mean, we have got a fabulous asset retention strategy.
I agree with you. So I think it's a benefit to the advisors, absolutely a benefit to the clients, and more importantly, it's a big, big, big benefit to the charitable organizations that are out there.
Well, it's a benefit to your clients, to your community, and your bottom line. You can't miss that one.
Can't miss that one. That's what I meant by advisors, their bottom line for sure. Yeah. But I think
it's all about the money.
It is. I mean, it is. But, when you have it, you got to give it back. So I think that's great. So, Arlene, all right. So, again, the book is Give to Live, Arlene Cogen. So definitely check it out. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. But check it out on Amazon. I think this is great. So, Arlene, thank you so much for being with us and sharing these ideas about how advisors can work with their clients and what clients need to be doing to give back a little more. So I appreciate you being with us.
It has been a pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being with us. And until next time, keep pushing past those limits.